I'm going to cover this great article by Twitchy that proves once again that women hate men. Now look at this. Vice. Forget heterofatalism. Man keeping is what's keeping women from dating. Now we'll look at the original article, really, and we'll see what they mean by man keeping, right? It's another dehumanizing term, by the way. Man keeping describes the emotional labor women end up doing in heterosexual relationships. You see, it's only labor if you don't like the person. If you want to be with somebody, it's not labor to be with them. So this is admitting women don't like men, right? And why is it heterosexual? Again, because women like other women. And so they don't consider it labor to put up with any tribulations in, lesbian relationships, right? Now, it's about managing his stress, interpreting his moods, holding his hand through feelings he won't share with anyone else. Wow. So a man considers a woman so important to him, so special, that he'll share emotions that he won't with anyone else. And she sees that as a negative. Now, that's true blue hatred, right? All of it unpaid, unacknowledged, and often unreciprocated. That last one's a total lie. It's a total lie. Men go other way to satisfy women. So this article is just lying outright. Now, as for unpaid, it's supposed to. If you love someone, you don't get paid for it. You only want to be paid if you don't like the person. Again. Now, I use the word dehumanizing, but in a way it isn't really accurate in this case. Why? Because pets aren't human, right? But women actually don't feel that way about pets, about dogs. Look, a woman named Janine Guido provided compassionate care to a dying dog named Watson, choosing to spend the night on a shelter floor beside him to offer comfort, affirming that even the most forgotten lives are worthy of love. No, she doesn't even own this dog, and she's willing to sleep on the floor next to him because she feels compassion for the dog. But they're wrong about affirming the most forgotten lives, right? Because homeless men will not be given this treatment by women. Women despise homeless men. They spit on them. They wish they would just die off. They're worthy of love, and yet women are not there for them, right? And this is not the only one. Woman saves begging stray dog, right? So if you're a homeless man and you're begging, the women just ignore you. Matter of fact, she spits on you, right? Woman brought to tears after overhearing what dog. Oh, yeah, exactly. Woman gives shelter dog a day out, right? So all this compassion, right, of women and their pets. Men don't get any of that. Now, we'll also talk about, before we get into the main article, heterofatalism, which just translates into women not finding a proper male servant. That's all it means. Why Gen Z women are opting out of hookup culture. Well, actually, I don't believe this because women still love the deselection process. They love engaging in the sadism against men of entering the dating field so they can dump them or reject them. So I don't believe that, right? The belief that heterosexual relationships are structurally doomed to disappoint is no longer just an obscure academic term. Why isn't it obscure anymore? Because women are openly saying it now, right? For many Gen Z women, it's a working theory of modern romance. First of all, this isn't romance. Looking for a man to use and abuse isn't romantic. Or it exposes what romance has always been about. Right. And it's reshaping the way they approach sex, dating, and consent. No, it's not changing anything. Women are just open about what they've been doing all along. Now, it's a quiet conclusion reached after too many overwhelming dates, too many safety calculations. Now, this is why I brought this up. The most violent relationships women have are with other women, not men. 61% of bisexual women and 44% of lesbian women reported some type of intimate partner violence, compared to 35% of straight women. So they're just dehumanizing men when they say that. They're dehumanizing. They actually don't mind the violence. They just hate men and use violence as an excuse. When it comes to dealing with other women who they actually like and respect, they're willing to put up with the risk of violence. So this is why I'm bringing this up. Okay. Now we'll get into the actual Twitchy article, right? This summer, Jean Garnett had a piece in the New York Times called The Trouble with Wanting Men. Now, the trouble with wanting men is they hate us. They want us in our lives, but they hate our guts at the same time. That's the problem, right? She even had a word for it, heterofatalism, right? Garnett is now divorced and dating. So she hates men, but she still wanted to marry one. She got done with him and she tossed him. And now she's up for the next victim. Now, Garnett is divorced dating, so it sounds like if you're her type, get help, right? Now, this is her type. I haven't been dating long. Just the other day, my ex-husband and I received our judgment of divorce as an email attachment. So she's looking for a man to abuse right away. Remember, women hate us, but they don't fear us. They want us there to abuse. But long enough to discover that I have a type. He is a gentle, goofy, self-deprecating. In other words, he knows his place. Rather deferential, so he worships me, right? A passionate humanist, a sweet guy, good guy. Women actually despise good guys, right? That's why it's in air quotes, right? He tends to signal in various ways his exemption from the tent category of men. So he's a male feminist. He's I'm one of the good guys. Everywhere he hates other men. That's part of her criteria. You got to hate other men. I'm not like those other guys. I'm good, right? The rest of them are all evil, right? It must be mildly embarrassing to be a straight man, and it's incumbent on each of them to mitigate this embarrassment way that feels authentic to him. So he's got to bend the knees. He's got to serve. He's got to be self-loathing. He's got to be ready to serve me. He's got to know his place. Now, why are gay men exempt from this, right? Now, he tends to signal his exemption from the boy, he sounds like a catch. Dude, he's just a more extreme example of what men are anyway. All men have to bend the knee to get with women. All men pander to women. All men. Right? So whoever wrote this article just doesn't understand at all. This is just a more extreme version. Remember, guys, men give engagement rings to women and they don't receive one in return. It's a one-sided relationship. Heterofatalism is so last summer. The reason more and more women are done with dating, according to Vice. It's all the hard work of man keeping, right? See, it's work to deal with men because, look, we're just servants. We're just supposed to do our job and shut up and actually be out of sight, right? Just keep working, right? Now, managing his stress, interpreting his moods, holding his hand through feelings he won't share with anyone else, etc., etc. Now, the Guardian calls mankeeping. Now, there's a trash rag. I wouldn't wipe my posterior with the Guardian because I fear getting infected. The modern extension of emotional labor, one that turns a partner into a life coach. This is about avoiding vulnerability. It's about refusing to carry someone else's emotional weight. See, they're not there for us, right? They're there for dogs. They're there for pets. Pets are worthy of emotional care, not us, right? Now, by the way, before I go on, I just want to mention one other thing. A lot of people will try and say my channel is like the opposite side of the coin of feminism. That there are these evil women out there, and I'm their equivalent. And there's all these normal people in between, right? So here's a perfect example of someone who's supposed to be my opposite, Eve Edit, where she'll have videos that the genders are reversed. However, no man writes articles like this. First of all, they wouldn't be allowed, even if they wanted to. But men do not write these articles. Men do not write these articles because men love women. So there is no equivalent. And if there was a bunch of normal people, like normal women would disavow feminists, which they don't. They have their same attitude, right? Now I'll get into what these people have to say, like people who responded to this disgusting article. Uncultured Pearl, just guessing, but are all the researchers involved single women with daddy issues? No, that's just as lame as hell, right? This is Cope, right? He's saying there's a bunch of normal women out there. Pearl, men are suffering a loneliness epidemic. In other words, women are dumping us en masse. Every one of them have daddy issues? No, 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 no. Screw you, right? Now, this guy, JWF, is better. Managing her meltdowns, trying to figure her moods, holding her hand through her deranged behavior, listening to her psychotic meltdowns over Trump. Is it any wonder men are fed up? First of all, JW, men are frustrated, but they're not fed up. They keep coming. All you guys keep coming to the dating and still get married to these women. Remember that hateful woman? She was married to a man. And she's the one who divorced him, right? So don't try this, right? And her behavior isn't deranged either, JW. Hatred is typical. It's not, you might consider it deranged, but you can be honest and say it's hatred. There's something broken about human psychology, right? Because women have natural empathy, or at least sympathy, for dumb animals, which they lack for men. So there's something wrong about human psychology. I agree with that. But don't call women deranged. Be honest. Now, this guy, have you met women? Yeah, that is like the perfect response to this, right? Why do men date women who clearly, deeply hate them? Well, Eric, that's a good question, but that's what men do. This is the way it's always been. Men have gone to war and died while their wives have been sitting home putting their feet up at their leisure. So you're just asking this question now? What it is men have always deeply known this, deep down, I mean, and women are just putting a giant neon sign. Now men can't pretend, right? How is this real? How is it not real? Texture. How is this not real? This is the way it's always been. Erickson, unpaid, huh? Are we supposed to have like a, no, no, I'm not going to read this. This is stupid. This is more male posturing, right? Hate that shit. Clay, that used to be called being a partner, but what do I know? Dude, the partnership has always been one-sided. Always. I wouldn't consider it a partnership where you are used and tossed away as a human being. That's not a partnership, right? So this is one of these guys who thinks things were different in the past, right? This is satire, right? No, no fire. This is reality staring you in the face. Deal with it. Natural selection for the win. Dude, this woman was married. The woman who wrote this article, this hateful woman, was married. And for all I know, they had children. Natural selection is to produce men who bend the knee. That's what natural selection is. Right. Anyone wondering why men are done with dating? Uh, some cases it's true. Some guys are giving up, right? But there's still all kinds, Montana, that are lined up. There are all kinds of passport bros. There are guys who are doing whatever they can to get with these people who hate their guts, right? Apparently, women can't do in a relationship what men always have done, be an emotional tampon. Right clip. That's right. Men are there for women because men love women. Women aren't there for us because they hate our guts. Yeah, that's right. This is an opposite take of reality. I endure the most blistering, blabbering angst and emotional instability from women. And they expect me to take the endless upheavals of their mental state as serious. That's true, Connery. That's true, right? But this is where it gets it wrong. They are hysteria machines designed for padded cells and lithium. No, no, dude. They do not, first of all, calling women crazy is offering them an out. What you're saying is women are naturally good and love men. And so for them to not love men goes against nature, and therefore they're crazy. No, you're wrong. This is all innate. This is all natural. True. Secondly, it takes away their agency. When women hate men, you hold them accountable. Remember, all these guys like Connery say women aren't held accountable. Who's not holding them to accountability? It's always guys like him. Instead of saying women hate men and they're awful people, he says they're crazy. Right? You know, are you seriously trying to make this a thing? This is a thing, Michael, whether you like it or not. The giant neon sign is up there. You see, guys, they're rejecting reality. It's guys who reject reality, who aren't logical. Wild idea. Maybe not having an attitude will help. So, Chow, you're willing to put up the abuse of people who hate our guts more than they do animals. All you're saying is put a mask on. Just don't be vocal about how you really feel about us. So you're okay with women hating our guts. That's pathetic. Anyway, I believe I've covered everything I need to about this article. Thanks again, Twitchy, for covering this. This is 100% a neon sign. The conclusion is, guys, women hate men. All of them innately. That's the conclusion. Now, you want to shack up with these people, go ahead. But don't come to me and cry on my shoulder when the inevitable happens. And don't expect me to respect you. You know, if you paid guys to be your friend, people would call you pathetic and call you out and say, geez, what a loser. But this is standard for men. Men are paying women to be with them, and women hate them. It's not simply, it's even worse than paying your friends. If you paid guys to be your friends, they might at least be neutral and say, well, I don't respect the guy, but at least I'm willing to put up with him. I don't hate him. Men are paying people who hate their guts to abuse them. That has to stop. End of story.